Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. He is our not wet T-ball coach extraordinaire, Ryan Blake. Ryan, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Paul. T-ball was canceled, so I'm sitting in my basement as usual. Happy to be here. I'm gonna miss the next few weeks of the show, but cancellation today with softball or with T-ball helped out a little bit.
Well, we are glad to have you there. Their loss is our gain. The Orioles come away with a big victory last night, but before we get into that, we want to remind you that if you are craving that classic New York deli experience, then look no further than Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor East. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different, a bar. Atman's Harbor Point. Go to atmansdeli.com for daily specials. Ryan, the Orioles, 3 straight Friday night victories. They have back-to-back City Connect victories. They are now 7-9 with a negative 34 run differential. So that those numbers are trending in the right direction. They win the ball game running away last night 9-2. John Means gives up a run in the first inning, and you're like, oh man, that might be enough. And then the Orioles explode. Gunnar Henderson, leadoff home run. Back-to-back games for the Orioles with a leadoff home run. Jordan Westberg on Wednesday, and then Gunnar Henderson yesterday with the leadoff home run. The Orioles score 5 times in that first inning, and they never looked back. Gunnar Henderson, 2 for 5, a home run, a triple, 2 RBIs. Adley Rutschman, 2 for 4, a double, 2 RBIs. Colton Cowser, breaking out. He had a hit on Wednesday, comes back with another 2 hits last night, including a big 2-run double with the bases loaded in that first inning. He also had a walk. And then one of the most exciting 7th innings you're ever going to see. Jorge Mateo leads off with a triple, followed immediately by a Gunnar Henderson triple, followed immediately by an Adley Rutschman double, followed immediately by an Austin Hayes double in a 4-run 7th. By the way, Austin Hayes, since coming off the IL, 2 for 2, 2 pinch hit doubles, and 2 RBIs. So he's looking the part right now, looking like Austin Hayes that was an all-star last year. Your thoughts on the offensive outburst last night and on Austin Hayes coming back in a big way?
Yeah, man, it was fun. Megan and I were at the game last night, and actually after the top of the first, I turned to Megan and I said, it feels like a Gunnar Henderson leadoff bomb kind of night. And sure enough, he parks one in the front row out in right center field. I didn't tweet it though, so it doesn't count. It's not an official prediction, but I have to pat myself on the back a little bit. Look, it was an exciting game. It was nice to finally get the moves back out. I really think for Cowser, it's the power of the mustache. He's, I think, 3 for 6 now with the stash. It looks great. He feels great, and he's playing great. So that's certainly exciting to see. And then that 7th inning, just unbelievable, man. The electricity in that stadium, watching Gunnar round second. First of all, they bring in a lefty to face Mateo, and Mateo triples. And then Gunnar Henderson comes up and just hits a rocket of a line drive that off the bat immediately was, that's going for that deep left field corner. And the electricity in the stadium, watching him round second, knowing that we were going for a second straight triple, super exciting. That doesn't happen often in the game of baseball. And then Adley puts one down the opposite field. And, man, I know he wasn't going to make it, but there was a part of me that was like, dude, run through second base, go for it. The roar that the stadium would have felt if Adley had rounded second and gone for third would have been unbelievable. And, hey, sometimes it just takes a bad throw, pulls the third baseman up the line a little bit, left or right, a little bit back, and he could have been in there with the triple. Look, I know he's not a fast guy. I know he probably wasn't going to make it, but we were up by 5 at that point. I was like, dude, I kind of wanted him to just go for the triple. But in any event, yeah, for Hayes to follow with another double, he looks sharp since coming off the injured list. He looks healthy. He ended up scoring on a wild pitch on a ball that didn't get too far away from the catcher. It was a really, really good read by Hayes. And, didn't look like he was favoring his calf at all coming in to score on that. Yeah, man, it was an exciting game. Nice to see the offense finally break out a little bit. They had that big 5-run first inning, and then we kind of, Bryce Miller settled in and was able to, have some command over the next few innings, keep the Orioles scoreless. Only a couple hits. I think Stowers and Cowser had a couple knocks until that 7th inning. And, for the O's to be able to put another nice rally together, twice in one game was pretty good to see because they've been slumping lately.
Well, and because you also, how many times have we seen the Orioles score a bunch of runs early and then not score the rest of the game,
Yeah.
right? And when you're facing that Mariners team, look, the Mariners, they're in first place in the AL West, but they're only a couple of games above 500. They're in first place because they have such a great pitching staff. And credit to Bryce Miller, he settled in. He gave up those 5 runs, and then he gave up nothing the rest of the way. And I turned to my bartender, and I was like, oh, man, I know this Mariners pitching staff. I wouldn't be surprised if the Orioles don't score again after this first inning. And sure enough, you look up, they're entering the bottom of the 7th inning, and it's still 5-1, or 5-2 at that point. But the Orioles, they explode for 4 more runs in that inning, put that game away. Austin Hayes, he showed off the wheels that entire sequence in the 7th inning, because that double, that's a single for I would say 80-90% of players in baseball.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that it didn't get to the wall, it was cut off, and he was only about a quarter of the way to second base when that ball got cut off. And he just legged it out for the double, and then he legs it out on, like you said, that ball did not get that far away from home plate. And like you said, an amazing read, scores on that, shows that the calf really isn't an issue for him anymore. And, I posted the lineup that we expect, because they play at 4:00 every Saturday, and that lineup is never posted by the time we do this show. And so I posted what I would think the lineup would be, and I completely left Hayes out just because he's been gone for so long, that he's going to play today. He's going to start today, and I didn't have him in that lineup, but you corrected me there. We'll get to that in a little while. But just overall, a really complete game by the Orioles.
And if I can piggyback off the first point you made there, it seems like the Orioles, when they score early, they kind of stop the rest of the game. And I was curious about that the other day, actually, watching the Blue Jays game, and because Westberg hit the leadoff homer, and then the offense was silent. And March 30th, the second game of the year, Gunnar Henderson hits a leadoff homer off of Griffin Canning, and the Orioles went on to score 13 runs in that game. It's part of a 2-day offensive outburst. And then the following game, I think they only scored 1, and the Orioles lost their game in that series. But each other game in which the Orioles have hit a leadoff home run, the Orioles scored 4, 2, and 3 runs total in that game. And that 3 was thanks to Adley Rutschman's walk-off homer against the Jays. So, yeah, it definitely seemed like a kind of trend where, leadoff homer, sure, it kind of sets the tone, but then the offense was going pretty quiet after that, not putting up many runs the rest of those games. So last night it was kind of cool to see Gunnar Henderson hit a leadoff homer, and then the rest of the offense picked up right there with him. I don't think we recorded an out until Westberg's sac fly, and he's the number 7 batter in that lineup. So a really, really good first inning, and nice to see the offense get on a roll.
Yeah, and then John Means, he goes out there last night. He gives it that run in the first inning. And you're kind of sitting there, and his first start back, 7 innings of 3-hit ball, 3 hit shutout baseball, and you're feeling really good about John Means. And then he goes out and he gives up 6 hits, 4 runs, and 4 2/3 innings in his next start. And then last night he gives up that run in the first inning. And for me, I don't know. I was working at the restaurant, so I'm kind of like looking up at the TV. I didn't get really a chance to hone in on the game. But for me, it was kind of a little bit nerve-wracking. Not nerve-wracking in the sense that it's like, oh, God, he's terrible. He only gave up the 1 run in that first inning. But nerve-wracking in the sense that, like, his last start, 6 hits and 4 runs, he didn't make it out of the 5th inning. He's already given up a run on, like, 20 pitches in the first inning here. What's going to happen with this start? He settled in, and he threw some nasty changeups in that game last night. Orioles, potentially, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, moving to a 6-man rotation here. John Means deserves to be in this rotation moving forward for the Orioles. And I thought it was kind of fitting that his last start against the Mariners was that near perfect game. It was a no-hitter. And then the first pitch of the game is ripped for a double to just take all doubt away.
Yeah, it was good to see him settle in for sure. A little bit of concern there in that first inning. I think the Mariners just came out ready to attack, and then Means was able to adjust. And certainly good to see another quality start for Means. That's 2 and 3 tries so far this year. I actually didn't get a chance to see his start last weekend. I was at a wedding for a friend, but I was at that game in Cincinnati when he went 7 scoreless innings, and then I was there last night for him to put together another quality start. Really, really good to see out of John Means. And we talk about guys who could potentially be moved out of the rotation because there are kind of, 6 guys who are in that mix. And I think out of all those 6, I think Means would have the least success out of the bullpen,
Mm-hmm.
purely based on a stuff standpoint. Granted, he has a fantastic changeup, but I don't think he has a fastball that's going to play up out of the bullpen in a shorter stint. He might add a mile per hour of velocity to it, but it's still not going to sit, 94, 95. And relievers who don't throw hard like that typically don't find a ton of success. So I absolutely think Means is going to stay in the rotation. I think he deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just good to see him back, man. He talked about how, the atmosphere at the stadium last night compared to, his last start in April of 2022, his last home start, was just markedly different. And really, really good to see because, he's one of the guys who's just been here. He's been through
Mm-hmm.
some tough years with us, and he got hurt right when we were starting to figure things out. And so for him to be back and contributing to the success of the team, it's just one of those heartwarming stories for me.
You have to wonder, would the Orioles have potentially made the playoffs in 2022 if he hadn't gotten hurt? Because that was a good ball club that was just figuring out that they were good. They missed the playoffs by a couple of games, and John Means, he's probably worth 3 or 4 wins as a starter above replacement. 3 or 4
Yeah.
WAR, and he missed that season. Really great to have him back, and I agree with you. John Means is a starter. He's an accomplished starter. He's proven that he needs to take the ball every 5th or 6th day, and that's his role. He's a starting pitcher. There are other
Yeah.
guys who can go into the bullpen. Cole Irvin would probably be the first one that we would think of that would go into the bullpen, but he's been so good recently, although he hasn't pitched in like a week. He's been so good that you can't really you can't take him out. And that's why the Orioles are going to go to a 6-man bullpen. Before we get into that, we remind you today's show is brought to you by Royal Farms, and their chicken is cheaper by the dozen. Right now, get a 12-piece mix for just $20. Plus, if you upgrade your Royal Farms rewards account to include Rofo Pay, you'll save 15 cents per gallon on gas through June 30th. So stop by your neighborhood Royal Farms today for these and other great offers. You look at this rotation, and they're going to keep Corbin Burns on regular rest. They haven't announced it yet, but he's going to start today. I think that Grayson Rodriguez is going to start tomorrow. John Means just pitched last night. You're not gonna take Dean Kramer out of the rotation. He's not a bullpen guy. Cole Irvin's he's given up 4 earned runs in his last 5 starts. He's not going anywhere. And like I said, Corbin Burns and Grayson Rodriguez are going to be in that rotation. This team is going to move forward with a 6-man rotation, keeping Corbin Burns on regular rest. The question here, Ryan, is by moving to that 6-man rotation, you're going to be a man short in the bullpen for the foreseeable future. How does this impact the bullpen? Or is it one of those situations where because they're keeping Corbin Burns on regular rest, that means that, every 5th day or whatever, there's going to be a starter who gets pushed back. Says maybe their bullpen or their side session in the middle of the week between starts become a bullpen opportunity for them instead, and you're really not taking away from the bullpen.
Yeah, I think it could. I think a lot of baseball fans, I don't think realize that these guys don't start a game and then not throw a baseball until their next start. They are throwing at, full speed, in the middle of that. And so, yeah, I think it's entirely possible that, some of these guys that may, you throw an off day in there, although the Orioles only have, I think, 2 off days until July, which is absurd because they had so many in the first month and a half of the season. So a grueling stretch coming up. But I think that bodes well for the rotation. But, you see guys like Cole Irvin and Dean Kramer pitching very well in those roles. And, if you're stretching them out to a point where they might be starting about every 7th day, if there's, an off day or something in between and you're keeping Burns on regular rest, then yeah, I think, that 3rd or 4th day, maybe get him a couple innings out of the bullpen, have him throw 20, 25, 30 pitches. And that would be like their typical work in between starts. I do think though that, given the stretch of games that the Orioles have coming up with limited off days, and the fact that they are going with 6 guys in the rotation and a bullpen that's already kind of, not in great shape. to put it kindly. Although they have pitched well recently, I'll give them credit for that. But I look at the rotation, and I think someone is bound to pitch themselves out of a rotation spot at some point. I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know who I expect it to be. I think we're probably saying that Cole Irvin is the favorite for that, just because we've had him pitch out of the bullpen down the stretch last year. But he's been too good out of the rotation. Now, with that being said, I think that if all these guys continue to pitch well out of the rotation, I could see a situation in which they convert just for the rest of this season, someone like Kyle Bradish, who's coming off an injury, into a relief role. Bradish is a guy who I think could dominate out of the bullpen, and I love him as a starter. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I think that's the route they should take. But if they have 6 guys who are pitching very well out of the rotation, then it's hard to take someone out. And the excuse with Bradish would be, hey, man, you had a UCL injury coming into the season. We don't want to risk anything. We're going to keep your workload lighter. And they could do that with Grayson too, although I don't think his shoulder injury is quite as serious as a UCL at this point. It seems like it was just a minimal IL stay. He's been about 20 days now. So yeah, look, I don't know what's going to happen. It's a great problem when you have 6 very good starters. It's an elite rotation. I don't think there's any doubt about that at this point. This is what we expected when the Orioles traded for Corbin Burns coming into spring training. And so, there's plenty of routes they could take, but I think we're going to see, someone eventually pitch their way into the bullpen.
Yeah, and you kind of stole the thunder there a little bit with I was going to ask you, is this rotation elite? And go over the rotation numbers. I'm going to do it anyway, even though you
I'm sorry.
Jumping the gun here.
Talk about it, Paul. Go for it.
Corbin Burns 3-2 with a 2.68 ERA. Dean Kramer 3-3 with a 3.72 ERA. Cole Irvin 4-1 with a 2.90 ERA. Grayson Rodriguez 4-1 with a 3.71 ERA, and John Means 2-0 with a 3.06 ERA. I mean, maybe, and that's before we even talk about Kyle Bradish, who in 3 starts has a 2.63 ERA.
Sounds like an elite rotation to me.
It does sound like an elite rotation to me. And then you talk about the bullpen, right? Look, the Orioles have the 5th best starter ERA in all of Major League Baseball. And they have the 6th best reliever ERA in all of Major League Baseball. Yeah, 3.16. You look at this team as a whole. They have a 3.23 ERA as a team, which is 4th best in all of Major League Baseball. They have the 3rd best ERA in the American League. And let me just go over some of the numbers here. Craig Kimbrell, who might be your worst reliever at this point, with a 4-1 with a 3.86 ERA and 8 saves. Cano, 2.14. Jacob Webb, 1.37. Keegan Aiken, 2.84. Danny Coulombe, 2.16. Albert Suarez, 1.96. Mike Baumann, 3.44. Dylan Tate, 2.84. Their bullpen, and we don't talk about the fact that, because we'll see the bullpen come in and maybe not pitch that great, but maybe pitching out of turn, or maybe if you have Cano pitching in the 6th inning for whatever reason. There have been some head scratchers with the bullpen. I can't think of them off the top of my head right now, but just some instances where you're just kind of like, what are we doing here? Or they've just been used too frequently. And I think that it might rear its ugly head in June. You don't really worry about anything except for the bullpen in June. Like they're going to have the one off day on June 17th. The bullpen is the main worry there, I think, for everybody. But this team's been going, this bullpen has been going out and just doing work night after night after night. And we aren't talking about it because when it does happen, it's so magnified because it's usually in a close game when the bullpen collapses.
So let me ask you a question, Paul, because I actually hadn't considered this until you were talking there. What's the corresponding move for Grayson Rodriguez being activated? What?
I think Stowers is going back down.
You think Stowers goes back down and they keep the bullpen with 7 guys?
Yeah, because Stowers he's not going to start today. If Grayson Rodriguez gets activated tomorrow, you have Austin Hayes back. You've got your 3 outfielders. Ryan O'Hearn's been playing in the outfield. He's been playing well. I wouldn't call him an elite defender by any stretch of the imagination, but he's been catching he's been making some diving plays.
Yeah.
He catches the balls that have been hit to him. Although he did track one last night that kind of made me a little nervous there for a second.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be Kyle Stowers. It's not because I want Kyle Stowers to go down. I just don't see the need to have that many outfielders on your roster when you don't need them.
So then you roll with a bench of McCann, Arias, and one of, I guess, Mullins and Hayes, if that's going to be a platoon.
I guess, but you can't have 14 pitchers. I don't think you can have 14 pitchers activated. So
That's
I think
true.
you have to be 13 and 13. So maybe it's not Stowers. Who else is in that is a great question.
So then it's is it Mike Baumann who has
I don't think he doesn't have any options.
No, I mean someone's got to be he'd have to be DFA'd.
I mean, but he's got a 3.44 ERA for one. And
he has been better lately. He did give up a run in the 9th last night, but has looked better in his last few outings before that.
Yeah, he gave up a run when in the 9th?
Last night.
No, he didn't.
He didn't?
No, they won
9-2.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. He gave up a double and then a walk with 2 outs and then got out of it. You're right. I'm sorry.
But in his last 6 outings, Baumann has gone 8 2/3 innings pitched. He's allowed 1 earned run. His ERA is 104 in his last 6 outings.
Yeah, he's been solid.
Yeah, and that's a 167 batting average against, a 465 OPS, 200 slugging percentage. He's not going anywhere. And he can't because he's out of options.
Right.
So I honestly
the only 2 guys in the bullpen with options are Yennier Cano and Keegan Aiken.
Albert Suarez doesn't have any options?
No.
He's got to have options.
Nope.
I don't know what they're.
So you're not going to option Cano and you're not going to option Aiken. It's got to be a DFA.
Right.
Jacob Webb's been good.
Right.
They're not going to bite Craig Kimbrell's contract yet.
Can they move? Well, they can't because he's not on the active roster anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Who?
I was thinking about Tyler Wells, moving him to the 60-day IL, but that doesn't matter. I mean, you can clear a 40-man roster space by having him on the 60-man IL, but it still doesn't do anything for the active roster. And they've already got Dylan Tate down in the minors.
Exactly.
Perez hasn't had options for 3 years.
Right. I'm on roster resource. Cano has 2 and Aiken has 1. Everyone else has none.
It's going to be Aiken.
You think Aiken gets optioned for Grayson?
It's going to be Keegan Aiken. I can almost guarantee it because they're not going to send Baumann. They can't. Bauman's out of options, and he's been pitching too well recently. It's going to be Aiken. They're going to send him down to activate Grayson. And
wow. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think there's an alternative. I really don't.
It's 100% going to be Keegan Aiken. And then
because otherwise you're DFAing either Baumann or Suarez, and I don't think you do either of those.
Yeah, maybe Suarez. They might, but Suarez. I don't think they're going to DFA him if they don't have to. I think it's Keegan Aiken that's going to go down. I think that's 100% the move.
I think it could be, and then you just kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah, I think that's
find a way to get him back up at some point.
And then maybe. But you also have to remember Dylan Tate is down in AAA right now.
Yeah.
Dylan Tate's down in AAA. They're going to trade somebody. No,
is Nick Vespi ever going to get another chance?
No, man. He's dead and gone.
I feel bad. I love Vespi, dude.
What? We all like Nick Vespi. I think and that flow is immaculate, right?
Yeah.
I like Nick Vespi. I don't think that the Orioles view him as an option unless he's a necessity.
Yeah, he's a reliever that tops out at like 91 at best.
Yeah,
Yeah. While we're talking about relievers who are mired in AAA, what are the chances we ever see Brian Baker again?
In my mind, they've got to be like negative 115,000.
I just wanted to see a reaction to me bringing up his name.
He's got an 8 ERA in the minors.
Does he really?
Yeah, he has been.
See ya.
Awful this year. The fastball's so intriguing, but he falls in love with it and he just keeps pumping it at the top of the zone. And players know it's coming. I have never seen a reliever who throws gas on a fire as much as Brian Baker.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because what he'll do, he did this a number of times last year. He'll come in with runners on base, right? He'll give up a home run, a 3-run homer, or a grand slam immediately. Only one of those runs gets charged to him, and then he gets the next 3 guys out, and then he'll go 3 up, 3 down the next inning, and it looks like, oh, he gave up 1 run in 2 innings. That's not so bad. When in reality, he gave up 3 or 4 because he gave up that grand slam and a 3-run homer.
Right.
Like Brian Baker. Oh, I hate that you even mentioned him on the show. It's good vibes
I had to,
show.
man.
It's
I
a
had
good vibe
to.
show.
I wanted to see your reaction, and it was exactly what I was hoping for, Paul.
If I'm nothing if I'm not consistent, right?
All right.
Speaking of Colton Cowser,
So we think Aiken goes down
man.
for Grayson Rodriguez.
Yes, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. The video
skip
skip
for a second.
second.
Keegan Aiken's going down. If you follow me on Twitter, I'm not going to get into it, but I took a lot of heat this week, and I'm just going to say it. Pasteurize Colton Cowser. Pasteurize that man. The milkman needs to be pasteurized. All right. Before we go any further, if your loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. That's 1-800-GAMBLER or helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. Now, Ryan, we can't ignore the fact, yes, the Orioles scored 9 runs last night. They had 10 hits. They had 6 for extra bases. It was a great night all the way around, but we cannot ignore the fact that prior to last night's game, the Orioles were averaging 3.8 runs per game in May. They had scored less than or equal to 3 runs in 7 of 12 games in May, which happened just 6 times in the first 29 games. They averaged 5.4 runs per game through the first month plus in March and April. We talked about the team's need each of the last 2 off seasons for a middle of the order bat. Are we seeing a need rear its ugly head again, or do you think that the Orioles roster and the Orioles brass is going to figure out consistent hitting in the middle of the order? I personally believe that Jordan Westbrook should hit 4th every single day for this team. But Ryan Mountcastle continues to hit 4th. Anthony Santander continues to hit 5th. I think if you put Mountcastle 4th and you lower, Westbrook 4th and you lower Mountcastle and Santander to 5th and 6th, it makes this offense that much better. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Westbrook continuing to hit 7th is kind of inexplicable to me. He's been probably our most consistent hitter over the course of the season. He should absolutely be in that top 4. Hyde mixed up the lineup in that final game against the Jays, putting Westbrook leadoff, dropped Gunnar to 4th, which I understand if you have kind of the old school mindset where your best power hitter, your home run leader should be hitting 4th. I think Gunnar is too good of a player to be that low in the lineup. I know 4 is not low, but over the course of a season, your number 4 hitter is going to get about 60 less plate appearances than your leadoff hitter. I love Gunnar in the leadoff spot. I think he sets the tone there. The lowest I'd put Gunnar is 3, and even then, I feel like I'd rather him be 1 or 2. The thing is, though, the Orioles have so many good top-of-the-lineup options. Adley Rutschman's not going to go anywhere. Jordan Westbrook absolutely should be up there. Against lefties, I think Mountcastle is a 3 or 4 hitter. Against righties, you've had O'Hearn in the 3 spot, and he's been producing. So it's the old cliche is it's a good problem to have, and it certainly is. With that being said, I do think that when your 4 and 5 hitters are Mountcastle and Santander, neither of those 2 are big on base guys. And so, that's going to hurt the bottom of the order a little bit, less RBI opportunities. I absolutely think I agree with you. I think Westbrook should be hitting 3rd or 4th in this lineup. I would love to see a top 3 of Adley, Gunnar, and Westbrook in some order pretty consistently. And then when Jackson Holiday figures it out, because we know he's going to be in the top of the order as well. So they do have a lot of guys, and we've already seen it this year. Santander was a 3-4 hitter, and now he's hitting 5th pretty regularly. Mountcastle was a 3 for a lot of time. Now he's down to 4, sometimes 5. So it's they have a lot of guys who can contribute in the middle of the order, but I don't understand I don't understand having Mountcastle and Santander hit back-to-back consistently with Jordan Westbrook batting 7th. I think at the very least, you put Westberg 5th and split those 2 guys up. Have a better on base guy in between
Yeah,
them to
you
kind of
you
bridge the
have
gap there.
two bad to middling on base guys in Mountcastle and Santander. Mountcastle at one point was leading the team in walks with 10, but I feel like he hasn't walked in 3 weeks. And
Yeah.
the main issue with this team is their lack of on base capabilities. They hit the ball harder than any team, or as hard as any team in baseball. You look at it, the team on base percentage, this is going into Friday. It doesn't account for last night, but the team on base percentage going into last night is 304, was 10th in the American League and 22nd in Major League Baseball, and it was 284 in May. You have 5 active players with an on-base percentage. Again, going into Friday, with an on-base percentage of 336 or higher. Ryan O'Hearn, he's 377 on the season, 387 in the month of May. Jordan Westbrook, 354, 353 in the month of May. Those are good, right? Then you look at Adley, 350, but 321 for May. Gunnar, 337, but 289 for May. Colton Cowser, 336, but 262 for May. Then you have 3 everyday players with an OBP below 300. Anthony Santander, 298, 319 for May. Jorge Mateo, 294, 242 for May. Cedric Mullins, 234, 0.097 for the month of May. This team has 3 players that play, and Jorge Mateo is an everyday player. He has started 13 of the last 16 games. He has become an everyday player. He's become their everyday second baseman. So you look at it, you have 3 everyday players with an on-base percentage below 300. This team won 101 games last year. You can't have that. Now, look, Santander, he's going to figure it out. That on-base percentage will probably be up in the 320s by the end of the year. He's going to figure it out. You can see that he's heating up. He got robbed of a hell of a catch by Julio. What did that look like in the stadium?
Yeah. Dude, it was incredible. I mean, it was hard to tell from our vantage point whether or not he actually caught it, but we could hear the groan from the fans out in center field. And then he threw up the X. I guess
he's
I don't know if that's his thing or not. But yeah,
tweet about me.
Yeah, man, that was a heck of a catch. I don't think I was there for Mike Trout's robbery of JJ Hardy in 2012. I was sitting in the grounds crew cage because that was the year I worked for the team. That one will never be topped in my mind, but yeah, hell of a play by Julio last night.
I think Cedric's topped it in 2021 when he robbed Gary Sanchez. Yeah,
I wasn't there for that one. I'm just talking like the ones I've seen.
Julio Rodriguez's robbery last year against the Orioles, the Ryan McKenna walk-off game. Rodriguez robbed a home run in center field. I can't remember who hit it, but it looked like he was 6 feet above the wall when he caught the baseball. It was an incredible play. But
there was one a few years back. I think it was Jackie Bradley.
It would have been a walk-off home run by
Yards.
Trey Mancini. Jackie Bradley Jr. Legitimately, it looked like he was standing on a ladder when he caught that ball.
Yeah,
and that
one was unbelievable.
Incredible. And I think he had the game-winning hit in that game too. Jackie Bradley Jr.
He might have. I feel like that was off reliever Tommy Hunter.
Maybe. I can't remember, but it was I want to say 2019, but
can we do a show in the future, like maybe in the off season when there's less to talk about? Can we do a show where we just talk about like old fun games?
For sure.
I would love that. Just a face-to-face version of like remember this guy.
Immediately 2 games both featuring Adam Jones came to mind when you said that.
Naturally.
So getting back to this offense a little bit here. Sorry, I forgot where we were. The team is like, look, it sounds like sour grapes because they're 28-14. They're in first place in the American League East. I don't know that there's many teams, if any, that I think that maybe the Phillies have a better record than the Orioles, but that's just about it.
Yeah. Did the Yankees win last night?
Did win last night. Unfortunately, they won 4-2.
No, they won 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, they're a game
the Yankees
ahead of us.
are.
Yeah.
No,
they're 31-15.
It's the loss column, baby. They played 4 more games than the Orioles, so they'll probably have 7 off days in June while the Orioles have 1.
probably.
But yeah, you look at this team and you look at the offensive struggles recently. I mentioned Jorge Mateo is an everyday player right now. Like he's been thriving in that bench role, right? And it seems like he gets a hit every game. But that's the thing, it's a hit, right? He's he
Yeah.
has yet to record a multi-hit game. He has 4 walks on the year and none in May, and only twice has he walked in the same game that he got a hit in. So he's hitting below 250. He's got an on-base percentage well below 300. And when he's getting on base, he's not stealing bags. He's played 30 games now. He has 5 stolen base attempts. He has 5 stolen bases, but 5 stolen baseball attempts. According to Baseball Savant, Ryan, he is the 4th fastest player in the game. And of the top 10 fastest runners in baseball, only one player has played in at least as many games as Jorge Mateo and attempted as few or less stolen bases. That's Evan Carter, who's 2 for 2. By comparison, you look at the top 10, Bobby Witt, this was through 29 games. I put this together yesterday before the game started. Through 29 games, Bobby Witt, 8 steals, 11 attempts. John Rojas, 7 steals, 8 attempts. Ellie De La Cruz, 18 steals, 21 attempts. Jeremy Pena, 4.
I thought Ellie had
that's through
30.
29 games. I can't.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Sorry.
This
You
is
just
through
said
the
that.
same amount of games as Jorge Mateo. The fact of the matter is, when he's getting on base, he needs to be running a lot more than he is. And there's a couple of games in there, I'm pretty sure. I think there's a game in there where he stole 2 bags. I feel like he stole second and then stole third. The fact remains that the Orioles, like the fact that Jordan Westburg has as many stolen bases and has more attempts than Jorge Mateo, it says something to me. I don't know why Mateo is not running. I don't know if he's not comfortable or if by the time he gets his read on the pitcher, but that happens to be the pitch that the batter swings. I don't know what the deal is, but he's not running, in my opinion, nearly enough. And if he's going to play every day, his main thing that impacts the game on offense is his legs. The defense at second base has been phenomenal. That's why he's playing so much. But if he's going to play every day, if he's not going to get on base that much, he needs to maximize his opportunities when he is getting on base.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's no reason he can't be playing that Ellie De La Cruz role where, he gets on base and he's taking second and might try to take third. He is fast enough. He's talented enough absolutely to do that. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's maybe battling some kind of injury. Maybe he isn't confident getting the read of the pitcher. I really don't know what it is. I will say, though, about Mateo, all of last year, right? He had that great April and then really struggled. And by July and for the rest of the season, it was like, dude, get Mateo off this team. He has no role in this team. That has changed in my mind drastically in 2024. I am, and it's starting to rear its ugly head again now that he is playing every day. But when he was in that role up until a couple weeks ago, where he was, a defensive replacement pinch runner starting against lefties and hitting lefties well, he was thriving. And like he jumped a bunch of spots in my head of my favorite Orioles. Like you need a guy like that to, be kind of a spark plug when you've got guys like Gunnar, who is a spark plug, but he also hits for a ton of power. And guys like Jordan Westburg, who are going to take bases because they're smart base runners, but also is going to, hit some power for you. You need a guy who's going to be able to come off the bench and provide speed. And I've talked about it plenty of times before. I think back to the 2014 Royals and the roles that Gerard Dyson and Terrence Gore had on that team and how much they impacted those playoff series that the Royals were in. Jorge Mateo can be that guy for the Orioles. I don't understand why he hasn't been that guy when he does get on first base. I don't know if the opportunities just haven't been there. Again, if he's just not getting good reads on the pitchers with their moves, I don't know. But if Mateo's in the lineup, you're absolutely right. He needs to be stealing bases and impacting the game that way.
Like I say, he's playing every day. Ramon Arias is on the bench. Ramon Arias is barely playing anymore. He shouldn't be on the team, right? You're waiting for the other shoe to drop with Mateo. Like, you're just waiting for him to hit that cold stretch where he goes like 1 for 34. You're just waiting for it to happen. But he has a role on this team where even when he's at his worst, he can still impact the game with his glove and with his legs. So he has a spot on this roster. Ramon Arias, Ryan, has no business on this team anymore. In games in which he's accrued in at bat, he has more hitless games than games with a hit. 12 hitless games compared to 9 games with a hit. Now, that's probably not that rare, especially when you look at his career. Like, I think last year he had 100 hits, and he definitely played in more than 100 games. The fact is, though, he's just not hitting the ball. He's not hitting the ball with any power. The only offensive peripherals that he has that are above league average is his chase rate and his K percentage. Everything else dismal. OPS plus last year was 98. This year it's 44. League average is 100. Defensively, he's put up negative metrics every year aside from 2022, the year that he won a Gold Glove award. And his arm strength each of the last 3 years has been well below league average for third base. He hasn't had it's a minimum of 50 throws to make Baseball Savant's page. He only has 33 this year from third base. But his top out is 77.8 miles per hour. The league average this year, league average for a third baseman is 86.1. And his top out is 77.8. If we're going to see a bad hitter and poor defense, I'd rather watch Kobe Mayo or Jackson Holliday try to figure it out than Ramon Arias, because at least you know that eventually they are going to figure out and that they have a chance to run into one at any point. And when you look at a guy like Holliday, he's got the speed to go along with that. I'd much rather see those guys struggle at the major league level but figure it out than watch Ramon Arias, where we know what his ceiling is. His ceiling is a 260 hitter with 16 home runs who, will get hot for a 2-week stretch, maybe twice during the year. That's his ceiling. These other guys have ceilings of perennial all-stars. I'd much rather see them figure it out. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Arias is not a speed demon. He's not an impact bat.
Mhm.
He is supposed to be your guy who brings
Mhm.
value on defense. And then just the other day, we see him make a throw home that pulls James McCann off the bag, and the runner is safe on what should have been an easy force play at the plate.
And then the wheels fell off.
And you pointed to his defensive metrics as well. Aside from that, the 2022 season, they just haven't been there for him. And yeah, when you've got guys knocking on the door, and we haven't even talked about Connor Norby, he's another option. But yeah, when you've got these guys, I absolutely think that that Holliday or Mayo deserves a shot. Now, the other benefit of that is you put Jorge Mateo, if you bring up one of these guys, you put Jorge Mateo back in that bench role starting against lefties where he has been successful. And I think that, really, really adds to your bench. Now, I understand with Jackson Holliday, he struggled in the big leagues offensively. He looks to be getting his swing back at AAA. I don't know if they want to give him another extended look at AAA or if they're, they want to see a few adjustments and then he'll be back, right? I don't know how they're viewing that. Kobe Mayo has, as of a few days ago, I haven't looked in the last couple of days, but he had 9 errors.
I think most of them are
base.
throwing. Now, the thing with Kobe Mayo that I was going to get to is he has a fractured rib, and he's out for several weeks.
Norby?
Kobe Mayo. It happened 2 days ago when they were playing that morning game. He was chasing after a foul pop, hit the stairs awkwardly, and fell into the side of the dugout. And it came out yesterday that they said they took him out of the game as a precaution. They came out yesterday. He has a fractured rib. He's going on the IL, and he's out for several weeks. So he is.
Well, damn. I knew he had been pulled from the game after running into the dugout. I did not see the announcement that it was a fractured rib.
He's not an option for the foreseeable future now. Jackson Holliday, look, Jackson Holliday he's an extreme talent. Here's the problem. He's gone down to the minor leagues, and people are talking about he's gotten his stroke back. He hasn't. At least not from what I've seen. He was hitting like 313 when he got called up. Since he's gone back, he's hitting.
I know he started slow.
Now the on base percentage is there. He's got an OBP of 395, but he's hitting 235 in 18 games since getting sent back down to AAA. The on base percentage is great. The slugging percentage is 397. He's got 2 home runs, 5 doubles, 7 RBIs, 18 walks, and 18 strikeouts. right? So he's one of those players where, and he did this a little bit last year, where he would go into this cold stretch, and then the next thing you know, he has a 10-game stretch where he hits like 516. So I have no doubts that he's gonna turn it on, but he's a guy who's not gonna get the call right now because of the fact that he's hit 235 since going back down. Now a lot of it has to do that they have him crouching up just a little bit lower in his stance, and he's probably still getting adjusted to that. The good news is he's walking as much as he's striking out. He is hitting for power down there, and he is still getting on base, but he's just not hitting the way I think that they would like him to even consider calling him back up right now. So that really leaves Connor Norby. For me, I think Connor Norby's got a major league bat. I really believe he's got a major league bat. The knock against him, and the reason that he's not going to get the call, and we're going to see the roster constructed as it currently is for the foreseeable future, is he doesn't play good defense anywhere. He's primarily a second baseman. He's been getting a lot of starts in the corner outfield down there, and with Holiday on the roster, he's an average at best fielder at any position that he plays. The reason that he's going to be a big league hitter is because he's a big league hitter, right? And I just don't think that the Orioles are going to sacrifice defense to call up Connor Norby, even though he deserves the shot as much as anybody else.
Yeah, because you call up Norby, he's going to be playing second base. Mateo has been your second baseman and looks spectacular over there. So yeah, it's we might be stuck with Arias for a little bit.
It's one of those guys, and it's just like when we always have McKenna doesn't belong on this roster or insert name here, but they stick around because when you really dive deep into the alternative options, you find that they really aren't alternative options at this point. Jackson Holiday, he's the future second baseman of this team. Jordan Westbrook's going to be playing third base. Gunnar Henderson's going to be playing shortstop. That's not the case right now. Some of these guys just aren't ready. Norby is ready, but he'll never be ready defensively, and that's a big issue for the Orioles. One thing they've always wanted their players to do is be able to catch the baseball, even going back to the Buck days. So that's just how it goes. Now, question for you, Ryan, is what company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates?
A.J. Michaels.
Like the Heartbreak Kid, A.J. Michaels? You're correct. A.J. Michaels, heating and air conditioning in Baltimore, Annapolis. Check out ajmichaels.com for more details. All right, Ryan, soft toss it away.
Yeah, let's soft toss. I want to talk about the streak of the Orioles not being swept. It's become a polarizing topic on Orioles social media, so I wanted to talk about it a little bit today. The Orioles are now tied with the 1903 to 1905 New York baseball giants for second all time with 106 consecutive regular season series without being swept. They now trail only the 1942 to 1944 St. Louis Cardinals, who went 125 series in a row without being swept. Last season, Paul, the Orioles, after winning 101 games in the regular season, were swept in the American League Division Series by the eventual World Series champion Texas Rangers. As far as I'm concerned, and this is just my opinion, the streak ended there. But a regular season streak is still a regular season streak. A lot of people out there think the streak is cool. A lot of people out there seem to be tired of hearing about it every time the Orioles win their first game of a series, every time the Orioles go into the final game of a series without a win yet. And I understand both sides of that argument. So I want to make it clear where I stand personally. This isn't where I necessarily think that other people should stand. This is just my opinion. There is an asterisk on the Orioles' sweepless streak because of the playoff series. It doesn't count for regular season stats, but it counts. The Orioles were swept. It happened, and it was a disappointing end to what was a really, really marvelous season. But the fact remains that for 2 full calendar years now, for the entirety, Paul, of the Adley-Rutschman era, the Orioles have not been swept during the regular season. That is so impressive, and it means something that's even more impressive. The team has avoided a losing streak of any significant length, and they have shown the ability to adjust to teams that they've seen a couple times and come through with their backs against the wall. I think it's 14 series now, Paul, in which the Orioles have gone into the final game without a win, and they've won all 14 of those games. They just keep winning. And for those reasons, although the postseason sweep looms large, and it's a dark cloud over this streak that is brought up every series now. The streak should be celebrated, and we should want it to continue for as long as possible, simply because it means
Yeah,
the team is winning.
it's a cool streak. It is. It's a cool thing. I know I'm going to feel some kind of way when it ends because it's going to end inevitably. No team just doesn't get swept ever. Like it's 125 straight series from the 42 to 44 St. Louis Cardinals without being swept is crazy. Like if the Orioles get there, it's going to be. I mean, it's something like I think they probably have to go the rest of the year to reach that. Maybe not. Maybe no. They've got way more games than that. But they'd have to.
19 more
They'd have
series,
to. They'd have to get through the All-Star break and then some. To be able to pull that off.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. I get what you're saying because it's like, yeah, they haven't been swept in the regular season, but they got swept when it mattered most, and that was in the playoffs, right? But at the same time, nothing in postseason history counts towards a player's career stats, right? Like how many more home runs would Hank Aaron or Barry Bonds or Ken Griffey Jr. or insert name here have in their career? How much better would the batting averages be? How many more hits would Pete Rose have? How many more strikeouts would Mariano Rivera have, or saves for that matter, if you counted postseason success, right? So that's why it's a big deal and that it should be celebrated. Aside from the fact that it means that the team is winning, it's real. It's a regular season thing. It's a regular season stat. Like, it's the same reason that like Cedric Mullins ended last year like 2 for 42, and I think he went 0 for 13 in the playoffs or something like that. But they don't say he ended last year 2 for 55. He ended last year 2 for 42. It's a regular season thing. Now you also can look at the Minnesota Twins, who didn't win a postseason game for like. They were like 18 consecutive postseason losses. You can start counting the Orioles losing streak if they continue to get swept in the playoffs, and that's a real thing too, right? So that they each have their place. The one issue, I love Adley Rutschman, and I love the recognition that he's getting for this. I feel like I always have to hedge my bets here, man. It's stupid. The streak did not start with Adley Rutschman. It started the series before Rutschman. But everybody was saying when he hit that walk-off home run the other day, which was one of the most improbable victories you're ever going to see, they were saying, oh, how fitting the streak started with Adley and he kept it going with the home run. No, he kept it going with the home run, but the streak started the series before Adley. And credit where credit's due, he has never lost a series, aside from the postseason, as a big league baseball player. But it didn't start with him. It started a week before. And I like people need to understand that. And like, I guess they don't. I guess it doesn't matter. If you want to say it started with Adley, then start with Adley, because that did mark the turning point for this franchise, right? As soon as Adley got here, the Orioles haven't been below 500 since. I think they were 10 games below when he got here. And I think there's something crazy like 70 games above 500 since he got here. It's insane how good they've been.
Mm-hmm.
The streak's cool. I'm glad it was your soft toss because I'm a big fan of it. And I know that I'm going to feel some kind of way when it happens. And then the next day I'll forget about it, the whole thing, and they'll start a new streak, and then we'll be talking about this 2 years from now with another 105 straight series, without being swept.
Let's hope so. I'm just glad it didn't end against the Blue Jays.
Well, the Orioles went 10-3 against the Blue Jays last year. And it was one of the most satisfying things I've experienced as a baseball fan, because I hate the Blue Jays. Like, I think I hate them more than the Yankees. Like, I hate the Yankees just because they're the Yankees. But the Blue Jays, it's like, you have so much freaking talent on your team, and you can't hire a single manager worth their salt to get that team over the hump. They should be one of the best teams in baseball every year. And the fact that they're below 500 this year, how does that manager still have his job? How does John Schneider still have his job?
Yeah, he's been on the hot seat, and I think winning that first game against the Orioles might have bought him a little longer leash. That was the only silver lining for me, losing that game and then watching, until Adley Rutschman bailed Hyde out, because that was in my opinion, a very poorly managed game by Brandon Hyde, and he was bailed out by an Adley Rutschman walk-off homer. But he kind of made John Schneider look good in that series, which is hard to do. And so, hey, I hope the Jays keep John John Schneider around for the next decade. I really do. They're not going to, but I hope they do because he's not good for that team.
Yeah,
and that makes me very happy because I'm with you there. I will always hate the Yankees. They will always be my most hated team. But something about beating the Blue Jays is just a little sweeter to me.
You can thank Jose Bautista for my pure hatred for the Blue Jays. What a piece of garbage he was. And not like
Started with him and
as
Donaldson.
a human being. I don't know what kind of a human being he was, but like he showed up so many pitchers, like and just like he pulled Juan Soto's like on a regular basis, and it's like you've won nothing. Like you hit a bunch of home runs, but your team has won nothing. Shut the hell up. Anyway, if you missed anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversation with Kobe Mayo, Trace, R.I.P., Trace Bright, Caleb Joseph, and legendary horse trainer Bob Baffert, you can find it all in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature today at PressBoxOnline.com. And now it is time for the AL East wrap-up. Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton each homered to back 7 strong innings from Nestor Cortez, and Clay Holmes struck out 2 in the 9th to pick up his 13th save while keeping his ERA spotless on the season as the Yankees doubled up the White Sox 4-2. Richie Palacio homered and drove in 2, and Tyler Alexander took a perfect game into the 8th. And while the Blue Jays mounted a comeback, the Rays bullpen slammed the door shut as Tampa Bay narrowly escaped with a victory 4-3 over Toronto. Davis Schneider homered for the Jays in the loss. And finally, Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado combined for 5 hits, but none of the Cardinals' 4 home runs. And former Oriole Kyle Gibson bent but didn't break over 6 innings as the Cardinals took down the Red Sox 10-6. Rafael Devers homered and drove in 2 in the loss for Boston. Ryan, why don't you take the reins, talk to us about today's game?
Yeah, sure, Paul. Corbin Burns will take the mound for the Orioles this afternoon. He's 3-2 on the season with a 2.68 ERA, a 1.006 whip. I like that you extended that out a little bit to include the 1.00. Burns pitched into the 6th inning for the 8th time in 9 starts in his last outing, allowing 1 run on 6 hits in 6 innings. Though he exited the game at 85 pitches, citing overall fatigue, the Orioles hope he can give them at least that this afternoon. He's looking for some run support this time around as the Birds have scored just 4 total runs in his last 4 starts after scoring 37 runs in his first 5 starts. The Orioles offense will have its work cut out for them as the Mariners will send right-handed pitcher Luis Castillo to the mound. Castillo is 4-5, but has a 3.31 ERA and a 1.123 whip in 9 starts this season. Castillo got off to a rough start this season, allowing 4 earned in each of his first 3 starts, but has really settled in, allowing 2 earned runs or less in 6 consecutive starts, including a 6-inning, 8-strikeout performance against the A's in his last outing, which came on May the 12th. Castillo is 1-0 in his career against the Orioles, winning his lone start against them on August 11th of 2023. Not that long ago, with 6 innings of 1-run ball in which he allowed just 2 hits, one being a solo homer off the bat of Anthony Santander. We remember the Orioles won the next 2 games of that series to win the series, the final game being the Cedric Mullins game, which he robbed a home run and then hit a go-ahead homer in extra innings. So, Paul, what do we think? We kind of teased this a little bit earlier. I'll let you say your expectation for the Orioles lineup. I think I may have swayed you out of one of those decisions.
I think you absolutely swayed me out of that decision. So I'm going to change this up here on the fly. Last week, that was a terrible decision because I couldn't figure it out. But I think this one's a little bit easier. I think you're going to have Henderson batting. Sure. Obviously, he's going to lead off, play shortstop. Rutschman catching and batting second. Ryan O'Hearn, I think he's going to play first base and bat third. I think you're going to see let's put Jordan Westberg at third base and batting fourth. Anthony Santander batting fifth and DHing. Colton Cowser, I think he's going to play left field and bat sixth. And I think you're going to see I think Colton Cowser is going to play right field and bat sixth. I think you're going to see Austin Hayes batting seventh and playing in left field. Cedric Mullins batting eighth and playing in center field, and Jorge Mateo batting ninth and playing second base. Mountcastle does look like he needs a day off. Austin Hayes has looked like he made his case to start today. Like he showed, hey, my cat's fine. Look at how fast I am. He's got 2 doubles and 2 plate appearances, both pinch hitting roles since coming off the IL. I think he was 5 for 10 with 2 home runs on his rehab stint. He's ready to go, and he might be the spark that the Orioles need in the lineup right now. And it's crazy because we were ready to run him out of town we were ready to run him out of town when the season started. He was something like 2 for 32 or 3 for 35. He had a 311 OPS plus. OPS, sorry, a 311 OPS. And the fact of the matter was, I think he was hurt. I think he was hurt, and I think that he's going to maybe potentially offer the Orioles a little bit of a spark to that offense, especially, 9 runs notwithstanding last night. This offense has been struggling, and they're facing a really good Mariners team who you're not going to see them give up 9 runs last night and then give up a big crooked number again today. I don't think they could. I could be wrong, but I think the Orioles are going to need a spark on offense, and Hayes might be that.
Yeah, and we've seen what Hayes can do when he's healthy and in a hot streak. And look, if we can get another couple months out of him the way we did at the beginning of 2023 when he worked his way onto the All-Star team, that's going to be absolutely huge for this squad. And I do think Mountcastle 1 for 16 over his last 4 games, facing a really good righty with a wipeout slider in Luis Castillo. I think it's a good time to give him a rest. He hasn't had an off day in over a month now. And so I think today is a good day for that, with him starting to slump a little bit. Austin Hayes absolutely deserves a shot in the lineup. And look, maybe he just needed a reset. Maybe he was playing hurt, but looks pretty damn good the last week or so, if you include his minor league stint. So excited to see Hayes get a little run and see if he can return to some of that form that made him an all-star last year.
100% agree. What's on tap the rest of the way? After today's game, the Orioles conclude their series with Seattle tomorrow afternoon with a 1:35 start and a matchup between, I'm going to say, Grayson Rodriguez. It's not even confirmed that Corbin Burnes is starting today, but he'd be going on normal rest, and they keep saying they want to keep him on normal rest. So I imagine it's Burnes today. Rodriguez was in the Orioles kind of like walking to the clubhouse hype video that they always do. He was in that video yesterday, and he was in the dugout, so I think he's going to start tomorrow. He'll be taking on right-handed pitcher George Kirby. Kirby is 4-3 with a 3.58 ERA and a .95 WHIP. In his last start, he tallied 7 innings of 3-hit ball, allowing no earned runs while striking out 6, walking none, but he did hit 2 batters. Following tomorrow's game, the Orioles will head to St. Louis to take on the Cardinals for 3 games before heading to Chicago for a 4-game series with the White Sox before returning home to take on Boston on Memorial Day. We'll remind you that the Bat Around is brought to you by the newest edition of the Press Box print issue. It is available now, on the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles pitcher Grayson Rodriguez, talking to many of the people that have been part of his path to potentially becoming a homegrown ace, plus reflections on the life and legacy of legendary Maryland basketball coach Lefty Driesell, and more. The new print issue is available now at your neighborhood Royal Farms and any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Plus, you can read the entire print edition at PressBoxOnline.com. Now, time for everybody's favorite take to rake. Ryan, you took Ryan O'Hearn last week. I took Gunnar Henderson. O'Hearn went 4 for 15 with an RBI and 1 walk, 267, 313, 267, 579 slash line. I took Gunnar Henderson, 4 for 20, but a triple, 2 home runs, 3 RBI, 2 walks, 200, 273, 600, 873. Though neither one of them raked, I do believe that Gunnar Henderson was the better hitter for the week. I gave myself the victory this week. We try not to have ties if we can avoid it. I'll
give that one to you.
Either if both players absolutely torched things, or if both hitters were terrible. Sometimes we'll do ties. Gunnar Henderson did enough to not have this be a tie. So with that in mind, what do the Orioles got coming up? They got a couple of righties today, and then they're going to be taking on the Chicago White Sox. And what are the White Sox? Is it the White Sox? No, it's the Cardinals. Cardinals and White Sox.
So really only it's a 4-game set with the White Sox. So there will be 2 games against them before our next show. I'm trying to see. Let me look up their roster resource real quick. I want to see if Garrett Crochet would be lined up for one of those games.
I'm trying to figure out just who's starting. I think that they have a bunch of righties in their rotation, if I'm not mistaken.
It's all righties except for Crochet.
Yeah. And
we might avoid him. It looks like he's slated for Tuesday
Tuesday
at
at
Toronto.
Toronto.
So if we face Crochet,
Yeah, and
it would
Steven
be
Matz is on the
Sunday.
15-day. Are you talking about for the White Sox? I'm talking about for the Cardinals.
Yes.
Yeah, and
I'm
the
sorry.
Cardinals have 4 right-handed starters. Kyle Gibson went last night, so it doesn't look like they have any lefty starters except for Steven Matz, who's on the 15-day IL. So bunch of righties. Colton Cowser's heating up. I'm going to take Colton Cowser. He got him. He's 3 for 6 with the mustache. He got a hit the other day. He got 2 more hits last night. I'm going to take Colton Cowser, even though people will call me a hypocrite for what I said about the pasture. But that's who I'm taking, Colton Cowser.
I like that pick a lot. Is that like an olive branch trying to make up for
that
it?
was just an opinion that, the whole thing, and this is going to be brief. I'm going to make it really brief. The whole point wasn't trying to hate on Colton Cowser or say, don't cheer for players. 100% cheer for players. Have the pasture. Do whatever the hell you want. But, Jordan Westburg has just about the same amount of experience as Colton Cowser, and he's been one of the Orioles' best hitters and best overall players all year. He hasn't had an extended slump, knock on wood. Gunnar Henderson has never gotten his own section. Adley Rutschman is as deserving as anybody in baseball is having their own section. And I know that, I like Colton Cowser. I believe in Colton Cowser. I think he's going to be an all-star in this league. I really do. He's the odds-on favorite for Rookie of the Year. I'm not saying I don't like him. What I'm saying is there are other players who weren't mired in a 7 for 54 slump at the time of the past year that we could have celebrated first. That was all I was saying, and apparently it was the worst thing ever. I got absolutely freaking torched for it.
I think to be fair, and this is the only point I'm going to make on it. This is something that they had been planning for a while, like back since he was really good. I don't think anybody saw that kind of slump coming. So they weren't going to reverse course and decide to change the theme of it.
I didn't say that they should. I never said that they should. I never said cancel the pasture. The other thing is, when I put out that tweet, I can admit that it was a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction, but we had just spent 3.5 weeks, or basically 3 weeks, watching Colton Cowser go 7 for 54. When the pasture got announced, he was 3 for 28. After that, but by coming up to the pasture event, he was 4 for 25. 7 for 53, over the course of that time. All right. And we had just watched him with the tying run on third base in the bottom of the 9th inning, take a 94-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle of the plate for strike 3 without even wiggling the bat. So we're watching all of these negative things, and every day I'm seeing multiple posts about the pasture. And I'm just sitting there. I felt like it was being rammed down my throat while I was watching a guy be the second worst hitter on the team. That was it was just really difficult for me to swallow that in the moment. I can admit it was a knee-jerk reaction. And I can also say, hey, look, he was really struggling, but he's a rookie. Pitchers made adjustments. He'll adjust back. I love the player, and I think he's going to be maybe not a star, but he's going to be an all-star, I think. To me, Colton Cowser has a really, really bright future. I just would have preferred to see one of my favorite players is Jordan Westburg. I prefer to see him get a section first. But I'm not people are right in the point when they say, well, if you want a section for Westburg, why don't you set that up then? I don't have the reach of Jason Benowitz. I am not personal friends with Adam Jones. I would love to set that up. Not to mention the fact I work, if you include the show, 3 jobs, and I have a 4-month-old child at home. So I don't really have the ability to do that. Otherwise, I would 100% do it. I talked way too much. I didn't want to talk about it at all on the show. Who are you taking to take the rake?
Sorry. Give me Cowser's best friend, Jordan Westburg. I'm gonna take your guy. He got me 1 win and take to rake already this year. I was thinking about Gunnar, but with you taking Cowser, I think a little battle of best friends.
I like it. And look, I hope they both hit 500 over the next week. The Orioles are going to win every game. If Colton Cowser and Jordan Westburg each hit 500 the next week, I hope we tie and that the Orioles win every game in the process. So, absolutely.
Make it hard for us.
That's what he said. Friendly reminder that if you are craving that classic New York deli experience, look no further than the new Atman's Deli and Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's Harbor Point. Go to atmansdeli.com for daily specials. And now, yeah, that's also what she said.
Yep.
Alley-oop, and I dunked it home. All right. Our favorite way to end the show, viewer interaction. I don't know.
Dude, Randall is on one today.
Oh, man. All right. Good morning, guys. Good morning, Randall. I keep hearing rumors. Verlander trade. Is this true? I have not heard that rumor at all. And the Orioles already have a 6-man rotation. I don't think that that's remotely true. And I also think that the Astros, aren't packing it in May. And they've been playing better baseball. The Astros are going to make a lot of noise before this is all said and done. I don't think Verlander's getting traded at all, and especially not to the Orioles.
It could materialize over the next couple months, but I think right now it's just kind of it's like Mason Miller. I feel like people are just kind of throwing that name out as like, this is a guy the O's should target, when in reality we don't really know if it makes sense yet.
So glad for Hayes. Yeah, it's good to see it when Austin Hayes is healthy and playing at the top of his game. He's a game changer for this lineup, and I think that a healthy Austin Hayes producing is going to. I think you'll see this offense start to take off like they did last night.
Yeah, dude, I hate watching Hayes struggle. I want nothing more than for him. He's been here since 2017. He's got that gritty, no batting gloves, go 110% on everything. I love Austin Hayes, and I really want him to succeed. So hopefully this is the beginning of a hot stretch.
Randall also said Westy got a run in again. The dude was born. He came out of the womb producing runs. He had 106 runs driven in 2022 in the minor leagues. That just doesn't happen. The guy is a run producer. He's a proven run producer in college, in the minors, and now in the pros. That's why I want him batting fourth. The guy just drives in runs. Stowers looking solid as well. I mean, he went 1 for 4 last night with a couple of Ks and a bloop hit. I don't know that he was solid, but there are other players, Ryan McKenna, who when they get a base hit, it earns them 3 more starts. Kyle Stowers, I think that he might be going down sooner rather than later. We'll see.
Could be. I will say about Stowers, and he shares this trait with Austin Hayes. He has never seen a pitch that he didn't want to swing at. This dude, every single pitch, he is geared up. It can be nowhere near the zone, and he's still, setting that load and getting ready to drive through the ball. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
So some people just need to get started. Some people just need to get started early, and so that they can make maybe it helps them make the adjustment better if they're already started instead of waiting on the pitch.
Sure.
Everyone contributed. Yeah, Means was good. Was great again. Yeah, John Means is a legitimate big league pitcher. He's a former All-Star, 2nd Rookie of the Year voting. He was a drop third strike away from throwing a perfect game a few years ago on Cinco de Mayo. John Means is a proven big league pitcher, and I think he stays in this rotation. I feel a trade coming that helps with roster overage. Overage or coverage? Probably coverage.
Probably coverage.
Roster coverage. They're going to make a trade. The good teams that want to are serious about making a World Series run make trades at the deadline. The Orioles are no different. They traded for Jack Flaherty last year. They're going to make a trade. I think it's going to be for bullpen help. I heard the guys on 105.7 the other day talking about, they need at the afternoon show. They need to trade for an outfielder. They need this guy. They need that guy. The same show where they were tweeting out, should the Orioles trade Jackson Holliday for Luis Robert? That's an absolute hardcore no. They're going to make a trade. If the offense doesn't really pick it up, I don't think that I could see them going for an outfielder, but I don't think it's going to happen. Man, Randall's the only one commenting. Appreciate your support, Randall.
The D chimed in late.
Okay. I'll wager Kramer or Irvin is used as a trade piece. I've always thought Kramer was on the chopping block, or trade block, excuse me. Oh my gosh. Irvin finds his way back. Did Miller get traded to the Dodgers?
I think so. We were talking about Bryce Miller, who started for the Mariners last night. We were talking about him a little bit and how the Orioles were able to jump on him. I think Randall's thinking of Bobby Miller, is a starter with the Dodgers right now. I could be wrong. That's the impression I get, but I don't know.
This rotation is very consistent and strong. O's need to
Oh, yeah.
trade for a closer. They absolutely need to trade for a closer. Like, look, Kimbrel, I think it's still there. I think a lot of his struggles recently have been mental, but it looks like he's put together 3 or 4 consecutive scoreless outings since a few of those blowups. And I believe in him. I don't know if he's still the ninth inning guy, but I do think the Orioles need to trade for a closer. You hear about what's the Cardinals? Helm is it
Ryan Helsley.
Ryan Helsley. You hear a lot about him, and the Cardinals are under 500. They were under 500 last year. Ollie Marmol, I think, is on the hot seat there.
Yeah.
Goldschmidt and Arenado just are not performing for them, and I think at the end of the day, you're going to see. I think that would be a lot more likely than Mason Miller.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And if the Astros decide that they are going to sell, Ryan Presley's another option. We can just stockpile some Ryans.
Yeah.
We got rid of McKenna. We need to make up for it. By the way, we should find out today or tomorrow if McKenna was claimed this time around, right?
We should. It should be coming any day now, because I think they have 5 days. Is it 5 days to make a claim on somebody?
I think so. It's either 5 or 3.
Yeah, I think it's. I feel like it's 3. Now you say 3, I feel like it's 3.
I don't know. We'll find out when we find out, I suppose.
Randall talking about the Orioles sweepless streak. Regular and post have always been separate. That is 100% correct. That's why I think that, like, in Baltimore, it's like you find yourself in that situation where it's like, yeah, they haven't been swept in 105 straight series, but the one series that they played in that mattered, that really, really like mattered, they got swept. And so you also don't want to champion something when you kind of, it's also like they did get swept in the most important series of the year. Yeah. You know, like it's a weird thing, but it's a real thing. It's a real thing because it's a regular season versus postseason. Adit Mahmoud. The thing about the I don't know what RS stands for.
Regular season.
Oh, regular brain. Sweepless streak is that you can't have more than a 5-game losing streak during. In the last 2 years, the losing streaks felt like 2 to 3 games at most, and that is consistency. The Orioles had 2 4-game losing streaks last year, and that was it. Yep. Nothing more than 3 games other than those 2 4-game losing streaks. So you really have – it's consistent. Like you said, Ryan, you have to be consistent to do this.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was trying to make. Regardless of how you feel about the postseason sweep and whether or not that should count, the fact that they have continued this streak throughout the regular season means that they are not losing more than 3 or 4 games typically in a row. And that's a really good thing. And they're winning a lot of these series too. It's not just that they're avoiding being swept. They're winning a ton of these series, and that's reflecting in their win percentage. So yeah, keep it up.
Absolutely. Randall goes on to say, never apologize for being correct. He's talking about my take on the pasture. And again, it's not that I don't believe in the pasture. I think it's a brilliant idea. You know, and like I'm sure that if Jordan Westberg's last name was Jordan Iceberg, you'd see a ton of people out there wearing lettuce wigs. You know what I mean? Like iceberg lettuce, they'd be wearing those wigs, and there'd be a section. You know what I mean? And I understand where it's come from. He's the Moo Man, guys wearing cow suits. You know, the milkman. I and people mooing. I totally get it. It's really, really hard to have people ram somebody down your throat for 3 weeks who has been struggling more than anybody except for one player that entire time.
Okay, can I say something in a similar vein that I was actually thinking about last night? So beginning of last season, this is, based on the conversation of, celebrating and championing these players. We could have, the Wild West for Jordan Westberg. There's a number of ways we could go with a lot of these players. Walk-up songs, Paul. Ryan Mountcastle at the beginning of last season had Dear Maria Count Me In by All Time Low, which was that viral video of him, what's your go-to karaoke song? He blasted it into the mic, sounded great. He made it his walk-up song. The fans got involved. He has since shifted away from that. He did say earlier this season that he intended to bring back Dear Maria, but that he just hadn't gotten around to it yet. And I think that's kind of dragged on a little bit because he had been hitting so well. He's starting to slump a little bit. Maybe he decides to go back. I don't know. But what I want to say about this, Gunnar Henderson now has Sweet Escape by Gwen Stefani. That's another one that the fans can chime in and sing along to. I think we could see a trend where if Mountcastle changes his song back to a kind of karaoke type song, I wonder if any of the other players would start to follow suit and it would become a thing where, 1 through 9 in the lineup, we've got walk-up songs that the fans can sing along to. And I had that thought last night, and it's very unlikely, but wouldn't that be fun if the whole top to bottom in the lineup had walk-up songs that everybody could get into and sing along?
I think it would be awesome. I think it would be awesome. If you watch WWE, and I admittedly, I used to be a huge fan, and now I just watch like WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble every year, and that's about it. Seth Rollins, and I can't remember exactly how it goes, but his entrance music, it's still like the Burn It Down, but it's got like this new beat, and it's got this chantable rhythm to it that everybody chants when he comes out to the ring. To have that for every player on the roster, and especially like the Gunnar Henderson, yeah, like that's just so much fun. You know what I mean? And then with Brian Mountcastle, it's a Baltimore band. Like they went to the same high school. All Time Low went to the same high school as my mom. All of my aunts and uncles on that side, all of their kids, like, well, not all of their kids, but my aunts, 4 kids all went to Delaney. Like that's just so cool. And it would be awesome to have every player have that, because then you'd even be vibing with the players that you don't like that much.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? Like, I just think it would be really great for the team.
Just a fun idea.
And for the fans. And hey, look, the Orioles are at home on, maybe I will try to do this. I Father's Day, Sunday, June 16th, the Orioles are home taking on the Phillies. I would love to have a section, Adley's Dadleys. Or Dadleys for Adley.
Okay, it's funny you bring this up. Do you remember those? I don't know what the organization was. I think it was like Orioles Advocates or something. It was like a local outreach thing where up in the upper deck out in right field, there'd be a sign for like Hardy's Heroes or like Weeder's Winners or whatever. I wanted to bring something like that back. There's so many guys on this team that I think you could come up with creative things for. I think they'd bring like underprivileged kids to games or something. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it was, and I don't want to say anything wrong. But I've been thinking about that too, and like different plays on words that we could come up with these guys. Adley's Dadleys would take the cake.
We got to do Adley's Dadleys on Father's Day. They're home. They're playing the Phillies. It's going to be a packed stadium. It's on a Sunday, so like everybody can go. Like, to me, like Adley's Dadleys would be an awesome section to do.
If you're going to set that up, you better start now, because I heard that ticket prices for that Philly series are astronomical.
Jesus, it's too late. I think we're less than a month. I think we're 4 weeks out. I think it's probably too late. But I mean, I could reach out to maybe Jason and see if they would be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
Randall says for Take the Rake, Hayes. Guys, there's no E in Austin Hayes' name. There is no E in Austin Hayes' name. I see this all the time. Matt Wieters, I before E. There's no E in Austin Hayes' name. What's another one? Danny Coulombe's name is Danny Coulombe, not Coulombe. Anthony Santander, not Santander or Santander.
I see Mullen spelled with an E a lot. Corbin Burns without an E.
Yeah. What's another one? What is something? Oh, I'm not going to mention the broadcaster, but you only roll your R's in a Spanish name when it's back-to-back R's. When it's 2 R's in a row, you roll the R. So Jorge Mateo is not Jorge Mateo. It's Jorge Mateo. You don't need to roll your R's for 1 R. Like, come on. Let's try not to be too hard on Randall here. He did just chime in with another comment that was autocorrect. Like, I get it. Sometimes that gets you. It's not always intentional. But PSA for the Orioles fans out there, Austin Hayes is Hays. But thank you for your correction, Randall. Thank you, Randall. Randall was referring to Oakland's closer. That when he said Miller, that's who I thought. I saw
Okay.
nothing about Randall Miller. Thanks. About Mason Miller being traded to the Dodgers. If it happened, I just haven't seen it yet. Don C chiming in. He says, "What's up, guys? What's up, Don? You're coming in late. We're almost done, but glad to have you. Glad to have you in here. Please like and share." Don always reminds us to tell people like and share. Don also says, meanwhile, in Aberdeen, Enrique Bradfield Jr. 3 for 4 last night. Number get off Brad. What?
Get off Brad's feet. I don't know.
Brad's field in 2 years. Oh, he's talking
Shout
about
out Enrique Bradfield Jr. He's electric.
Yeah, he is electric. Somebody was talking about, like, I think that there's no way that he could be worse than Cedric Mullins at the plate right now. He was in 230 at Aberdeen last week. Like, it's Aberdeen. Like,
he's not going to be much of a bat, but he has Ellie De La Cruz speed.
The thing that blows me away is the lack of bunt attempts from Jorge Mateo and Cedric Mullins. Mullins in particular, like, lay one down, dude.
2021, he used to do it, I feel like, a decent bit.
In 2020, in like 40 games, he had 9 bunt singles. Lay one down.
Yeah.
I promise you, it'll help you get out of your slump.
He'd probably pop it up. But I'm
you know
sorry.
What?
I'm sorry.
He did try to lay one down the other day, and he popped it straight up in the air. It was almost called. He, like, lay more than one down. And then finally, a deep. Maybe the Verlander rumors were that Baltimore would be one of the few places that he would most likely waive no trade clause to. There's probably no actual discussion between Houston and Baltimore.
Yeah.
That's a logical thought process. Yeah.
Like
not saying that the thought process to go trade for Verlander isn't logical either. I think that that's a logical explanation is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think so too. And I have seen tweets about, just kind of speculating about it. I don't think there have been any reputable sources who have said there are talks going on between the teams. But Verlander does have a no trade. He's well within his rights to waive it. And yeah, I mean, I could see him saying, yeah, I'll go to Baltimore. But I think the two teams have to, obviously come to terms on a trade first. But I'd be surprised if they're discussing it this early in the season, especially with how well the Orioles rotation has been performing.
Like, look, who would you rather have in a postseason series, Dean Kramer or Justin Verlander? And I like Dean Kramer. I think Dean Kramer is one of the better 4 or 5 starters in the league.
Yeah.
So I like Dean. If I'm going into a playoff series and I can have Justin Verlander if I can have Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, Justin Verlander, and Kyle Bradish with John Means as a 5th starter, I'm pretty okay with that. So I get it. The Orioles right now, 6 starters for 5 spots, and that's before you talk about bringing in a guy like Verlander.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds almost as good as having Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, Rick Porcello, David Price, and Anibal Sanchez in a playoff series. I don't know I don't know how that kind of team could lose.
You also forgot about Jabba the Hutt.
Shout out Jabba, man.
Jabba Chamberlain.
Jabba Chamberlain thought he was the funniest. So 2012 on the Tarp Crew, a lot of us would, before the game, the team was finishing up batting practice. We didn't have anything really to do yet, so we'd stand along the right field scoreboard and just watch batting practice. There was a game when the Yankees were in town. I don't know if he was on the Yankees or the Tigers at the time, but he was walking the length of the scoreboard with a baseball, just tossing it up far enough that a fan could get to it, but far enough out into the field that no one could reach it, just teasing fans by tossing a ball up as if he was going to give it to him, back and forth for like 10 minutes. It was like, all right, dude, we get the bit. Get over yourself. I was not a Jabba guy.
Yeah, that's such a dickhead move. Not to mention, it's one of the reasons I hate Jose Bautista, because he would do that routinely. He'd catch the final out of the inning in Baltimore, and he turned like he was going to throw it to the crowd, and he'd like fake it, laugh at them, and then put it in his back pocket. And it was like, you're
so cool, dude.
Dickhead. Like, I'm glad you hit 50 homers in the season once, and then you felt like your shit didn't stink, and now you're retired. You tried to become a pitcher just to try to stay in the game, and your team. Yeah, he tried to become a pitcher. He wanted to pitch for I can't remember which team he was going to try. Maybe the Dominican. I can't remember, but he was going. Or was it Puerto Rico? Maybe whoever it was, he was going to try to pitch for one of the World Baseball Classic teams. It's like, all right, dude, and
you're not thinking of Are you
No,
thinking of
it's
Anthony
100%
Ghost?
Jose Bautista. Look, you can.
Okay, gotcha. All right, because I know Ghost did that and was actually a
Well, I
decent
remember
reliever for
Adam
a little
Lowen did
bit.
it the opposite. But you remember when he fractured his forearm and they're like, you'll never pitch again, and he was like, damn it. So he became a hitter, and they went back to pitching for Team Canada. Yeah.
Yep. Didn't Rick Ankiel
Rick
do something
Ankiel
similar?
was a pitcher, and then he became a hitter, and he was actually like a decent hitter. Like he wasn't great, but like I think he had
Yeah,
20 homers. And you know what?
and a great defensive outfielder too.
Yeah,
Had a cannon. I mean, it was a
I'm
pitcher,
gonna
so it makes sense.
I'm gonna look this up real quick. I know we're going over, but
Sorry, yeah, I took this completely off the rails by telling
so
that
let's
Java story,
see.
but
In his career, he was an everyday player. Yeah, he had 264 with an 843 OPS in 2008 with 25 home runs. Rick Ankiel, um, for the Cardinals.
he walked so
The year
Shohei
before
Ohtani
that,
could
he had
run.
285 with 11 home runs in 47 games. But then you look at his pitching career. Is it going to show his standard pitching? I mean, 11-7 in 2000 with a 3.50 ERA and 194 strikeouts in 175 innings. Nobody talks about how big of a freak.
Well, we have some news. Breaking news. And it's a good thing we kept the show going a little bit. The Orioles have reinstated Grayson Rodriguez from the 15-day injured list. He will start today's game. And they have designated right-handed pitcher Mike Baumann for assignment.
Wow. I did not see that coming. I expected Burns to pitch today, and I expected it to be Aiken to go when Grayson Rodriguez came back.
I think a lot of people expected Burns today.
Wow.
That's okay. So I don't think Baumann clears waivers. I think this marks the end of Mike Bauman's time in Baltimore. Look,
there's not a chance
I think
he clears
Keegan
waivers.
Aiken
There's not
has
a chance.
No. Keegan Aiken has been valuable enough that I don't know, man. It's a tough decision. I think Aiken deserves to stay on the team. I think this would have been a much easier decision if Baumann hadn't been solid his last 3-4 outings. But I do think that Baumann is the weak link in the bullpen
I do too.
overall.
He's just been so good the last 6 outings. By the way, back scratcher.
Yeah.
Back scratcher. Everybody needs to go back
Hell
scratcher. Yeah. These things are.
I have one. I don't know where it is, but I have
one.
At
the old house, I had one in every room. Or on every level, and one in my office and one in my work apron. When the one day a week I would work at Baco. Like, if.
By the way, Christmas time suggestion: if you need a stocking stuffer for somebody, back scratcher is clutch. It's one of the most handy gifts you can receive.
The first back scratcher I ever bought was a stocking stuffer for my wife, and I was the one who used it. Actually, I think it was this. I think it was
there
this.
You go.
And now it's mine.
Perfect.
So,
yeah. Well, hey, yeah. So good, interesting news there at the end of the show. So Grayson's back. He's starting today.
Mike Baumann gone, and I think he's definitely gone.
We have made.
I think he's definitely. I loved Mike Baumann, and like when he threw that no hitter against Harrisburg for Bowie, like I loved Mike Baumann, and like I'm sad to see him go because I know that he's getting claimed, that he is not making it through waivers. Ryan McKenna might. Mike Baumann. Yeah. He's a legitimate big league pitcher. He's going to be claimed by somebody, like.
Yeah, I mean, he was another guy we had high hopes coming out. It was Baumann and Aiken, really. Baumann, Aiken, and Kramer were all around the same time. You could throw Bruce Zimmerman, I guess, in there as guys who we thought were going to be the next Orioles rotation, and it didn't work out for Baumann. He's pissed me off a lot. He reminds me a lot of Brian Baker.
Who was the pitcher? Who was the pitcher that the Orioles traded to the Cardinals last year to get Flaherty? Drew Rom. Drew Rom was in that. There's another guy who was really good for a couple years for the Orioles in the minors, and then once he got like promoted above like Double-A. Do you remember Tobias Dietz? He was Tobias Dietz had like a year or two where he was really freaking good for the Orioles.
Wasn't he like the 2015 third round pick or something? He
was.
If that's accurate.
Yeah, he was definitely a third round pick. Maybe that's not his name. Maybe it's not Tobias. It was something. It was something crazy. Like the first name was something like very Amish sounding.
Was it
Matthias
Matthias?
Dietz? I think that might be it. I think that might be it. Matthias Dietz. Yup, it was Matthias Dietz. He was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles in the second round in 2016. And he was
all right, off by 1 year and 1 round.
For Delmarva, he was 6-2 with a 3.56 ERA and 13 starts. And then in 2021, that was in the Angels system, 3.09 ERA. But for the Orioles, it was 2018. It was at Delmarva. He was just dominant. He was going out. It seemed like he was like pitching his ass off every game. And then as soon as he got promoted to high A, the wheels fell off. Like completely fell off for him. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah. But I have a Matthias Dietz story too. On his draft night, we drafted, and I used to go through and try to find a guy's Twitter so I could follow him. And Matthias Dietz's profile picture was he had a duckling, like a living. I don't know if it was his pet or what, but it was just this selfie. He was laying on the couch with a duckling just sitting on his shoulder. And I took a screenshot and tweeted it out. I was like, "This is the Twitter avatar of the guy the Orioles just drafted," and he blocked me. I don't know. It's your public Twitter avatar. Whatever. I don't know. That's all I know about Matthias Dietz.
So, it is what it is. I remember when Jose Bautista followed me. Well, followed me.
I think Jose Bautista still follows me. I got to check on that. You know who else followed? And I think he followed a bunch of Orioles Twitter people, and I don't know why, because I'm pretty sure it looked like a parody account, but I think it's actually him, Jonathan Papelbon. Have you seen that dude on Twitter?
We're going off the rails. We got to get the hell out of here.
Sorry. Hey, before we go, happy birthday, Brooks Robinson. He would have been 87 today.
Thank you for remembering to do that, because I should have, and I totally spaced it. So thank you for mentioning that, Ryan. All right. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to all of our loyal listeners, viewers, fans. Without you, we 100% do not have a show. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for tuning in. Until next